are you even doing here?
Like with episode 2 and 3, I could have talked about this last episode, but it doesn't factor into my arguments about episode 9 at all, so it would be kind of distracting. But how did Ruka find out where Kazuya works? He didn't tell anyone on screen, and yet she still ends up here. And you might think she just needed some money after she burned a bunch of that love hotel, but in that case, A, it's pretty contrived that she chose the exact place he happened to be working at, and B, she clearly says that she planned to end up at the same workplace as him, so that argument doesn't even work. Honestly, Sho, why do you never explain things that could be so easy to explain?
Me just sitting around won't help. I've gotta stay close, especially since you and Chizuru already live in the same building.
Ah yes, my favorite tactic to attain victory in a battle of endurance. Telling your opponent your exact strategy. Genius. So, to sum up exactly why her telling him this is so stupid, I'd like to invite Wakia to the floor.
Just knowing your opponent's gonna use the same technique, you can come up with all kinds of countermeasures. Yeah? You actually going to do any work?
This is pretty ironic considering the fact that Kazuya is the one who ends up goofing off far more at work, but to be fair, considering all she's talking about is their relationship, it is a fair question for him to ask, so while I don't think it's fantastic in retrospect, it's fine for this episode.
I'm being bullied by an employee! I demand you dock that guy's pay for a week!
Certainly isn't a good moment for making Ruka more relatable. She's mildly losing an argument and just goes to spite him by getting him to lose his pay. What the fuck is this? He never said he had any plans to go out with Chizuru. He was in fact specifically saying he saw her a lot less. So this just seems like spiting him, which really makes her seem more abusive.
Every day we stray further from God.
Man, I don't get why the fuck you would put so much effort to a random nothing line Kazuya's just thinking, Alex, but your work is definitely appreciated.
Well, he's been acting really weird over the last week or so.
So this is a running theme with a lot of the stuff in this episode, but the problem is that they had the thing with Kauri happen in episode 7, but they have only explored it 2 months later. Like, why has he only started acting weird lately? You'd think he'd been acting weird for like 2 months now, since the thing with Ruka happened presumably at best late November. This is early to mid-January. And yet only now have his friends noticed a pattern.
So I did some digging.
Wait, my love story had an abrupt end? Hold up. How much of that love story did he post about? Because this is private account, so did he say her name? Did he say that it was a rental? Did he say about the double date on this? Like, it's pretty convenient. He only put the most vague thing there, and not all the specifics that can lead to Kazuya getting screwed over.
In cyberspace, I see all.
So, one, he doesn't see all, because he clearly doesn't see the fact that Ruka comments on all Kazuya's posts, and the fact that Kazuya is forced to like all of hers, nor, indeed, did he see that both of them have the same app. He really doesn't seem to see as much as he's letting on here.
You have any idea what's going on?
How is that not the expected question, bro? Like, honestly, if you want to keep your secret, you need to start anticipating hard questions, because if I'm being honest, in real life, his secret would be kept for about 2 microseconds with how many obvious questions catch him off guard. And again, if they wanted the character to be this dumb, they should have put him in an environment to where he didn't need to do constant critical thinking in high-stakes situations.
But he's so yesterday's news for me now.
Are you kidding me, Ruka? Didn't you tell Kazuya you would talk to Kauri if he wanted you to? Like, you would think if you're trying to fight a battle of endurance for someone's heart, you wouldn't, you know, deny them easily to fulfill requests that have no negative consequences for you. Also, this is building again on the abuser point from last episode, haha.
But he did pay the fee for your services, right? And what you did was kind of out of bounds for a rental.
You already tried the "you really destroyed him" approach off screen. Why the fuck would you try the "you broke the rules of being a rental" approach first? It would just obviously make her defensive and accomplish nothing, whereas at least trying to appeal to her empathy might work, even though she doesn't really have any.
Besides, I was trying to keep a secret. You were the one who started following me.
How is that a defense? No, seriously, how? He was following you to make sure you kept his secret, and he never asked if you were a rental, you told him willingly. Also, even though he started the thing at the train station, it doesn't even matter, because she started it back at the rock climbing place by revealing that she knew Chizuru's secret. So she started all accounts here. But that isn't even relevant because Kazi isn't thinking about what you did at the train station, which would be his fault. He's talking about what you did at the college, which was 110% your fault because you came without him asking to attempt to experiment something he never even discussed. And you said that to Kauri. Another examples of the writers not knowing how arguments work, since they have Kazuya say she has a point there when she very clearly doesn't.
Honestly, I do feel bad about what happened to Kuribayashi. That in order to get close to you, I had to break it off with him. It was just business.
Not only that, but what she just said was fucking word salad. Like, Kazuya's request is, could you apologize to him for what you did back at the school? His request was not, can you go on a date with him? Like, all she was doing was trying to make everything about their relationship, and she's failing to realize that fulfilling basic requests for him will make them closer, not further away. That reaction, Ruka, is exactly why you needed to do what he's asking. He is literally sighing at your affection. That's how you know you're fucking up. Because it is clear that he doesn't want to spend time with you that much after you refuse to help him out after consistently asking things of him.
Nah, that would just make Ruka mad.
Firstly, since when did you care about making Ruka mad? Also, it's not like she's being particularly kind to you, denying your request to help out your friend and then dragging you along to a cafe and everything. And plus, this is something you personally want to do, and it's something she was seemingly fine with when you started this relationship, and you denied her starting the relationship because you know it would be this awkward, and she forced you to do it anyway, so she should recognize that there's downsides to that. Like, this just comes across as the writers misreading the scenes they wrote, and building on my whole abuse victim point.
I did start it all by being a jerk and showing Mizuhara off.
Another instance of bad continuity between the latter half and the former half. Like, you did not show her off. You ran into these two, and after they started calling her a fucking cultist, you introduced her as your girlfriend. It isn't as if after Chizuru came over to his apartment, he grabbed her arm and dragged her to his mates' places. Like, come on, guys. Your show is not that complicated. It should be easy to remember this.
There's nothing I can do.
Why did you scrap the idea of telling him the truth? I guess now it may come across as you lying about it to make him feel better, but he can find Chizuru online, so you can prove it. Like, to be fair, he does reveal it anyway, but this line just comes off like he is still planning to keep a secret, which is completely against what he said in episode 7.
What do you think you're doing? Ringing my doorbell like it's no big deal?
How else is he going to get you to answer the door? That is one of the stupidest points to bring up about what he's doing right now. How about asking, why are you showing up at my apartment like it's no big deal? Again, this seems like semantics, but the sheer amount of semantic errors in this show creates a semantic field of idiocy.
You to do me a favor.
Huh? Why should I?
Exactly, don't think you thought that far ahead. Now, I know you didn't have a better idea as to what to ask, but you would think that would be the most obvious response. How about starting with a description of Kuri's current behavior and then say how you plan to fix it instead of saying this?
He has no idea the hell I've gone through since that fateful day.
I do think this image is pretty effective at showing the embarrassment he felt after what happened in episode 7. Though I definitely think their repeated version of it later is definitely not as good.
Kuribayashi, I want to thank you for renting me out the other day.
Okay, here's a super obvious question. How has Kauri at no point thought of why Kazuya and Ruka were alone in that room at school? Like, I know the fact he got a secret reveal will be the thing on his mind, but you'd think if that scene replays in your head that much, you would at some point go, wait a minute, why were those two spending time with each other anyway? And maybe investigate around that? Nope. Cool. The show thought that would be inconvenient? Yep, makes sense.
Right, time to look it up.
Wait, he actually just did that? Like, right away? Holy shit, bro. Kazuya could learn a thing or two from Kauri about this shit.
Also, like, what's Kazuya get out of telling me about it like this?
I do actually like how he comes to the wrong conclusion here, but they actually justify it. Because, yeah, it is weird to have Chizuru tell him and not tell him yourself. But, to be fair, I guess I would assume his friend would understand how much of a pussy he really is. But decent writing is decent writing. I'll definitely take what I can get from this show.
I can't call myself a man if I allow that to happen.
Cool how, because of the toxic masculinity stuff that was set up in episode 6, they actually justify why he's coming and not just having him come for the sake of it.
I can't wait. It's been so long since I've done this.
Also, showing Chizuru's act with someone else is good for reinforcing Kazuya and Chizuru's distance in a more organic manner than her just screaming it at him. Because, again, it's setting up the fact that she doesn't put on a real different act for him when they're on their rental date.
She's so close. And what is this sweet smell? I feel like I'm in a field of flowers.
That being said, these jokes aren't any more funny when Kauri does them than when Kazuya does them. Sure, their setup is better, but fucking hell, guys. Learn how to tell some other jokes.
Whoa, that's her boob. I can feel her boob.
Seriously, guys, don't ruin the moment. What the fuck is this shit? Why can the show not vary its comedy based on the situation, and instead just has to tell the same, 5 jokes every time?
You are so funny. You crack me up.
Okay, this is pretty weird, considering it makes a moment from episode 5 where Kazuya freaks out over her saying this to him when they're eating together. Even though this is clearly part of her act, and hell, she's probably even said it to him on a different date, so that just makes him look way stupider in retrospect.
Boys are so stupid. I mean, seriously.
Okay, I do kind of like the speech. I mean, it's kind of cringe, but at the same time, it is an interesting way of showing how he's got something different out of this date, where he's basically flipped his perspective, and then gets back to normal by the end, so it's not great, but I see what they're going for.
It's true you guys have your childish side, but that just means deep down you're all romantics at heart.
So while I like this speech from Chizuru to explain why she continues to do this job despite the issues, I mean, my problem is that the season 2 finale completely spits in the face of this and just makes this come off like part of the act, which makes it, a lot worse. So this is another issue with the gift in episode 8, is since she gave him a gift after the stalking, he never got any real consequences for the act of stalking. So he probably doesn't see it as a bad thing, which is why he does it again here, because he knows that people don't care when he do it, which is not very healthy, and really does make Chizuru seem a lot dumber for not reprimanding him for it.
There was no going back after that.
Yes, there was going back after that. Very clearly. The fake breakup you staged in episode 4, and then if the two of you just committed to it in episode 6 or 5, then you would 100% be done with this. Again, I do like episode 4, but it seems it got so much in the way that the writers just threw it in the trash and never acknowledged it, because the amount of times they ignore it is just absurd.
Seriously? That's the lamest story ever.
Okay, I actually really like this, because 1, it shows us how Kauri is back to his old self, but 2, it also really emphasizes Kazuya's need to keep the other guys from finding out, since he now sees the reaction he should expect. So this could really encourage him not to tell people like Kibe. Not only is this argument super well delivered by both of them, but also it is a really good way of just having them go back to being more close mates. And again, it is really weird how the show writes its male relationships pretty decently, and yet just can't deal with romantic relationship.
What date? This is not a date. It's just a rental thing.
You get that this is called a rental date, not a rental thing. He said date time because you're paying by the hour for a date. The more things change, the more they stay the same with this show.
I know, but after all Kauri's gone through, I'm pretty sure he'll consider it a shared secret.
This does make perfect sense. Wait, haven't I said that before? Wait, yes I have. I said the same thing in episode 7. Come on, guys. The fact he says the same thing he said 2 months ago, and yet didn't act on it for 2 months is just fucking bizarre. Who the fuck decided, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna say the same line as episode 7, and yet not acknowledge why he held back his secret till now?
I don't want him to start hating women because of this, because it was kind of my fault to begin with.
This is also a really good justification for why he thinks he can't do it himself, and why he has Chizuru do it. Shame they couldn't do this kind of stuff consistently, not only throughout this episode, but throughout the show, but hey, take it when you get it.
But just this once.
Unless you fuck this up once is all it will take. Are you thinking that you will fuck it up, or are you trying to let him know that you won't do this for another one of his friends if something similar happens? Either way, this line just comes off as pretty bizarre.
He hasn't learned a thing.
I can't tell what this is, because is this them lampshading their lack of character arcs, or is this just a really dumb joke? What's happening here? They know that Kazuya doesn't have an arc, right? I thought they planned that. Are they just messing it up that bad?
My electric bill doubled. I guess I better ease up on the AC.
Doubled? You say that so casually, bro! Holy shit, how much AC does it take to just casually double it? Do you have that thing on 24/7 non-stop? This is such a bizarre line to just throw into the episode, and it does show that while this episode does have some good stuff, it's certainly an episode of Rent-A-Girlfriend, if you know what I mean.
So shy that her clients are complaining about her.
So this kind of confuses me. So how did Chizuru maintain a perfect rating when the show acknowledges that people don't understand the service? Like, isn't the point of the description of the rental supposed to show the experience you would get? So Sumi is supposed to appeal to guys who have a kink for shy girls? So why would they complain if they understand the point? And if the counter to that argument is that they don't understand the point, then how did Chizuru stay at a perfect rating till Kazuya? Classic late R.A.G contradicting early R.A.G.
And she's a vital piece of the puzzle when it comes to getting yourself a real girlfriend.
And this scene is just funny because pretty obviously he already has a girlfriend. I thought we established that. And the thing is, right, if you assume the premise that Ruka's hated, then it makes sense. But the problem is, the show doesn't live by that premise, as proven by the fact that Kazuya was scared about making her mad. So they're basically just doing stupid continuity errors here that are justified if you hate the character, but they don't want you to. So they're essentially having their cake and trying to eat it too. Well, this episode's pretty good. It's by R.A.G standards. Everything with Ruka is dog shit, and a lot of stuff with Kazuya is similarly terrible. But the stuff with Kauri and Chizuru and Kauri and Kazuya was really good and made up for a lot of the worst elements of this episode. And even though the scene at the end isn't great, it is setting up for a pretty good episode coming next, with episode 11, which a lot of people love. So I'm excited to see you then.